I attend this occasion in my capacity as a social media spectator, isang tagapagmasid sa social media from the ABS-CBN Corporation. As many of you are probably aware, social media is an aspect of our digital life which allows us to connect, interact, and even maintain relationships with other people online. About 3 years ago, I used to ask people this question. Iibahin ko yung formulation ng question natin. Sino rito sa room na ito ang walang Facebook account? Wala wala. Ay, walang Facebook account. Si Madam? At ang kanyang child? Okay. Ma'am, I would suppose your child is still a minor. Tama po ba? Yes, because my son is about the same age and hindi siya pwedeng mag-internet, mag-social media pa. Ang walang Twitter account. Medyo marami. Twitter is wonderful. I would suggest that after this conference, you might want to check it out. About 3 years ago, when I joined ABS-CBN as the head of the Boto Mo'y Patrol Mo Akong Simula, ABS-CBN's citizen journalism arm, as was mentioned earlier, people would give me a blank stare whenever I explained the concept of social media and its importance to the need to engage our citizenry for the 2010 elections. 3 years hence, I don't think I still need to explain. Now, instead of asking new acquaintances for their phone numbers, we ask each other's Twitter names or Facebook accounts. That is, of course, after we have taken our pictures, flashing that V sign, and then we post that picture on Twitter and Facebook, and then we tag our new acquaintances. Please don't get shocked. I am here to speak on the topic Communication for Social Change, which is supposed to tackle the impact of new technologies and communication mechanisms here now and their potential role in furthering social causes put forth by the youth, by people in your age group. I feel humbled by the invitation, and I'm deeply honored to be even lined up in the same row as the speakers earlier. I would like to thank Mr. Carl Satinigan. I understand it's Gawad Kalinga because this lot is supposed to be his, except that I'm flying earlier, so sobrang kabaitan na pinayagan niya ako maunang magsalita. So salamat po kay Mr. Carl Satinigan. Sinabi ko na sa inyo, isa lamang po akong hamak na spectator o tagamasid. Isa rin po akong mamamahayag, journalist. Kung isinilang ako sa ibang panahon, malamang tatawagin akong chismoso o kaya meron. Sinwerte po ako at meron ng social media. Ngayon ay ako ay isang glorified chismosa, glorified meron. Pero hindi lang naman ako ang sinwerte. Tayong lahat ay maswerte. It is during our generation when an awesome game changer is born. Social media has brought to all our hands the capacity to immediately connect, to immediately express, and to immediately help or seek help. Social media is so intuitive that it behaves just as how humans would. Fortunately for us, fortunately for you, it is kids like you who have the first crack at this. Bakit yung mga bata? Why the young? It is by no accident that our national hero, Jose Rizal, referred to the youth as the hope of the nation. Young people are like empty tablets. You've probably heard this phrase before. Tabula rasa, clean slates. They are not afraid and they will try new things. Consider this. More than half of the human race under the age of 30. I would bet my bottom dollar now that the people in this crowd, the average wouldn't be more than 25. Ano ba? Who is more than 25 here? I am quite correct. So yung mga batang ito na below 30, isinilan niya na may mga email addresses. What is social media? It's the ongoing conversation of the planet. Lagi tayong nakikipag-usap, lagi tayong pinakausap. Isa bang mabuti sa kanya? It cuts across genders. Social media is the vehicle by which men have finally decided it is cool and valuable to open up, share, make friends, and have conversations. Alam na natin mga babae ito noon pa. Pero yung mga babae, marunong na rin silang magpupo. Ay, yung mga lalaki I mean. Social media is the mainstream. Sa ngayon, hindi na lang mga bata ang nag-Facebook. Maraming mga government pages ang nasa Facebook na. Ang Malacanang launched this year its Facebook page. The White House after Obama was elected. Social media is like water. On its own, water does some cool things, but when combined with other compounds, it enables the evolution of all forms of life. Social media on its own is nice, but when combined with other tools, it is enabling everything to evolve from communications to business to politics to marketing. Sa mga negosyo na gumagamit ng social media, sabi nila it is the best way to reach your most influential customers and the only way to reach your most cynical ones. But social media is not just about sales or ads or click-through rates. It's about pursuing relationships and fostering communities of consumers. It's about rethinking how you make your plans when your customers are in the center and in control. Right now, who in this room has the capability to send via his mobile phone a tweet or a Facebook post? Show of hands. Hindi mahiya. Okay. See? You're in the center and you're in control. Social media has dramatically leveled the playing field and connected us like never before. Sa mga may kasamang minors, pahalan po kayo. Ultimately, it has revolutionized things, and this is why the title of my slide is The Revolution Has Gone Social. In the next slides, I will show you instances when social media ultimately revolutionized the way we live and conduct our affairs. After the June 14, 2009 elections in Iran, the streets of the capital, Tehran, erupted in the most intense protests in a decade, with riot police officers using batons and tear gas against opposition demonstrators. The crux of the matter is the election contest. Allegedly, the incumbent, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, had stolen the presidential elections from the reformist bet of the opposition, Mir Hossein Mousavi. Listen to this. The authorities closed universities in Tehran, blocked cell phone transmissions and access to Facebook and some other websites. And for days, they shut down the text messaging services. As night settled in, the streets in northern Tehran that recently had been the scene of pre-election euphoria were lit by flames of trash fires. Young men ran through the streets through paving stones and shop windows. Police pursued them. The Time magazine describing the events those days said that the medium of the movement is Twitter, because everything was happening there. Twitter didn't start the protest in Iran, Time magazine said, nor did it make them possible. But there is no question that it has emboldened the protesters, reinforced their conviction that they are not alone, and engaged populations outside Iran in an emotional, immediate way that was never possible before. Another awesome example of social media at work. Muhammad Bouazizi, a 26-year-old who sells vegetables on a cart in Tunisia, set himself on fire on December 10, 2010. This picture is not him. This is the picture of the dictator, whom he protested against. There was so much outrage over his death because he was apprehended for allegedly selling illegally his vegetables, and then he was insulted by the police officer. He tried to report that incident to their version of the provincial government, and he was rejected. He said he was so humiliated, he felt so useless. He poured himself gasoline and set himself on fire. That incident caused so much outrage and its symbolical protest of the unemployment and poverty in the country that Time magazine reported. Even the president then, Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, visited Bouazizi to try to blunt the anger. But the outcry could not be suppressed, and on January 14, just 10 days after Bouazizi died, Ben Ali's 23-year rule of Tunisia was over. So they ousted the dictator. And this, many critics, many thinkers say, is the start of the Arab Spring. Because the story could have ended there, but it did not. On January 25, protesters took to the streets in Cairo, in Egypt, to push Hosni Mubarak out of power. And then they protested for 18 days despite the violent repression. They resisted police violence. On February 11, Mubarak stepped down. After Tunisia and Egypt, protests emerged in Bahrain, Algeria, Libya, and then Morocco, Yemen, Jordan, Syria, as well as Lebanon, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. Kung napansin natin dun sa nakaraang 2 taon, yung pa-ulit-ulit or yung sinasabi nila na ginagamit nilang lesson to kaya rin tumataas yung presyo ng langis dahil din sa gulo sa Arab world. Pero ito yung pinag-uusapan nila doon. Al Jazeera said, throughout the uprising, Tunisian protesters relied on Facebook to communicate with each other. Unlike most video sharing sites, Facebook was not included in Tunisia's online censorship. This is Bouazizi. His photograph appeared in numerous wire agencies all over the world, and he is hailed as a hero. Not that what he did was wrong, in fact it became very controversial among Arabs because suicide is not a good thing in Islam, and he did just that. Non-internet users kept abreast of the protest via satellite news, including Al Jazeera, France 24, and playing catch-up on its competitors, Al Arabiya. But then, the hashtag on Twitter tell the tale of how the uprisings went from being local to national in scope. The first hashtag that they used was Bouazizi, and then it became Sidi Bouzid, which was the city where Bouazizi came from, and then it became Tunisia, which was the country. Other awesome examples, we saw Barack Obama, the first African-American who was swept into power. And many analysts say that it is by no small chance that he relied heavily on social media and social networking sites. And then, of course, we have Occupy Wall Street. I can give you so many other examples. But the bottom line is this. Do you know this? It all starts with a story. You need to speak up. I'll be sharing with you some videos that were submitted in 2009 by the so-called patrollers. I want to show you this to demonstrate the point that there is rawness, awkwardness, amateurness in all these videos and submissions. And yet, this is what the citizens are sharing with us, telling with us in their own voices, and through pictures showing us how they're seeing things. So let me open those. Hang on. The first one that I'm gonna show you,
ramdam pa rin hanggang ngayon ang foreign magic. Napakarami mga kapamilya nating nagpapadala ng kanilang mga litrato kasama ang dating Pangulo. Nagpapatrong TJ Maroto.
Mahigit 1 linggo na mula nang pumanaw si dating Pangulong Cory Aquino at daang-daang libo ang nagdaramati para sa presidenteng minahal ng sambayanan. Ang mga boto patrollers naman, patuloy ang pagpapadala ng mga litrato at alaala ng Pangulo'y minsay na kasama at nakilala. Isa sa mga pinakalumang litrato ay mula kay Rosalyn Valdez. Ang litrato ay kuha ng maimbitahang magputong ng korona si Cory sa nanalong Miss Camille Colleges noong 1962. 29 anyos lamang si Cory noon. Ang piloto naman na si Juan Carlo Bustamante, tandang-tanda pa niya nang ibigay niya kay Cory ang kanyang alkansya para makatulong sa kampanya noong 1986. 10 taong gulang lang siya noon. Sa tuwa pa raw ni Cory ay binuhat pa siya at hinalikan. Ipinagmamalaki naman ni Chris Francisco ang sulat na padala sa kanila ni Cory noong 1989. Sinuratan daw ng ama niya si Presidente Cory at dahil karaniwang tao lang, laking gulat niya nang sumagot ang dating Pangulo at nagpadala pa ng litrato. Minahal din si President Cory ng mga kapatid nating Muslim, tulad ni Minsara Muarif na ipinakita ang litrato ng kanyang ama nung siya'y nanumpa bilang Secretary of Muslim Affairs. Marami ring nagpatunay ng pagiging simple ni Cory, tulad ni Lucille Heros ng Chicago, Illinois, na minsan ay nakita si Cory sa isang shopping mall sa Iloilo na walang kasamang bodyguard. Napakadali raw lapitan ng dating Pangulo. Naalala rin si President Cory ng mga may cancer na natulungan niya, gaya ng Buwan family na malaki ang pasasalamat kay Cory. Nilapitan daw nila ang dating Pangulo sa Tarlac at humingi ng tulong sa gastos ng chemotherapy ng ama. Wala na raw tanong-tanong pa at kinuha niya ang number nila. Makalipas ng ilang araw ay tinawagan sila ng panganay na anak ni Cory na si Balsi at sinagot ang lahat ng gastusin. Ilan lang ito sa mga alaala ng mga boto patrollers kay Pangulong Cory Aquino. At maliwanag sa mga kwento nila na buhay ang pagmamahal at paghanga sa natatanging leader ng bansa. Sa mga gusto pang magpadala ng mga kwento o litrato, ipadala lang ito sa e-report@abs-cbn.com. TJ Manotok, Patrol na Pilipino.
Under my watch as boto mo, ipatrol mo akong simulahin. That event for Aquino's death it was the very first time that I felt how strongly the community could respond to a call for help or an appeal to one's sense of nationalism. We gathered in less than a week, 604 emails, and then 145 SMS and MMS. And then editor-assisted citizen journalism stories became the norm over the week-long coverage. As you have seen, I'll show you another one. In the second biggest coverage of patrollers which happened during the Ondoy typhoon, and then succeeded by Epeng, these were among the videos that were sent to us. This was taken in Parkway Village, Quezon City on the afternoon of September 28. It was taken by Ansan and Daniel Anderson. Maybe you have seen these videos in TV Patrol or Bandila. But the person who sent this wanted to impress upon us the devastation that their community experienced with Ondoy. Who has memories of Ondoy? Maybe I'll exit now. Okay. This one is, I don't know how you would react. This is the underpass near Quiapo. Now from Pefeng. This is in San Jose, Nueva Ecija. Sabi nung nagpadala, and listen to his words. Ito ang kuha ng mga lugar na kinain ng ilog dito sa Barangay San Agustin, lungsod ng San Jose, Nueva Ecija. ngayong Huwebes, October 8, 2009, 3:30 ng hapon, maraming mga nagsisilikas, 7 bahay na ang kinain ng ilog at inanod ng buo, mga bungalo type. At marami pa ang susunod na nanganganib na kainin ng ilog sa patuloy na paglaki ng ilog dahil sa walang tigil na buhos ng ulan. It was sent by Froilan Bernomilla sa Agustin ng City, Nueva Ecija. May I exit and show you the last video from this? Ito Nueva Ecija din siya. San Vicente naman. Ito yung report niya. 3 days na pong close ang highway ng Gapan, Olongapo Road dito sa Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. Till now po, October 11, 7 p.m. Napakalalim pa ng tubig sa daan. Walang makatawid. Halos 10 kilometro ang kahalang traffic ng mga stranded na sasakyan. Hanggang ngayon, ganun pa rin kahaba ang pila ng mga sasakyan at stranded. Paki-cover to sa TV para makita ninyo gaano kahirap ang sitwasyon dito. Boundary lang po ng Aray, Pampanga at Cabiao, Nueva Ecija ang area ng kalubog na highway. Pakisabi po sa mga motorista papuntang Cabanatuan at Gapan not passable po ang Cabiao Road. Siyempre, we had to advise motorists and broadcast that piece of information. Why are we? Why do we get the raw ones and show it via social media? First, it gets circulated anyway. People get something, they share it with their friends, they share it with their family, to warn their family, to warn their friends. And then, we do the work. The professional journalists do the work. You probably would remember this. What's his name? The guy's name, yung nagagalit. You remember him?
Wait na ate, tawagan ko tahan na doon.
Police?
Ito yung sinasabi ko, the professional journalists then have to do their job. Kasi yun lang naman yung kumakalat eh.
Kumalat ang video sa YouTube at iba pang social networking sites ng isang motoristang nanampan ng isang MMDA traffic enforcer. Sinampahan ng kaso ng MMDA ang motorista at
Ito na yung
hinihingi
context.
na mag-public apology ito
Ayun pala yung
sa
nangyari.
traffic enforcer. Ito ang balita ni Mon Hoxon.
Sinampahan ng kaso sa Quezon City RTC ng Metropolitan Manila Development Authority ng kasong direct assault ang isang motorista sa pananakit nito sa isa sa mga traffic enforcer ng MMDA nitong nakaraang Sabado. Kinilala ang motorista na si Robert Carabuena. Nakalabag umano ito sa batas trapiko. Kaya agad namang silita ng MMDA traffic enforcer na si Saturnino Fabros. Makikita sa video footage na ito ang eksena na nangyari sa pagitan ni Carabuena at ang traffic enforcer. Binatukan ng dalangkap ni Carabuena ang traffic enforcer habang hawak-hawak ito sa damit at habang dinuduro-duro. Akmang susuntukin din ni Carabuena ang traffic enforcer. Walang ano-ano'y biglang sinampal ni Carabuena ang traffic enforcer at saka umalis.
Nung binitawan niya po yung sombrero gano'n, isang sapak po ng umano sa akin dito sa may deswing.
Ipaparevoke ng MMDA ang lisensya ni Carabuena para hindi na ito makapagmaneho ng kahit anong sasakyan.
Okay, let's end it there. From the video, the raw footage that I showed you until the report of this network news program, marami na tayong nalaman. Alam na natin na pangalan pala ng motorista na yun na mainitin ng ulo ay si Carabuena. Tama? Alam na rin natin na Sino si traffic enforcer? Di ba binanggit yung name niya? Ano ulit? Fabros? Ano po? Okay. Tapos alam na rin natin na posibleng sampahan ng kaso at ma-revoke forever yung license nito ni Carabuena. Tama? At alam na natin dahil sinampahan sila saang sila nagkasuhan? Saan? Alam na natin na doon nangyari yung insidente. I'll show you another one. Malamang familiar na kayo dito. Kunwari, first time natin itong napapanood. Kung first time natin itong napapanood, malamang hindi natin alam, chances are we do not know who these people are, ano nangyari, bakit, ang tukod saan yun, hindi ba? Kung first time nyo itong napanood, at hindi nyo kilala yung mga personalities involved.
Magandang gabi po, mainit na pinag-uusapan sa maraming umpukan. Ang video ng sakita ng kolumnistang Simon Tulfo at ng mag-asawang Raymond Santiago at Claudine Barreto. Nangyari ito sa NAIA Terminal 3 kahapon matapos ireklamo na mag-asawa ang kanilang bagahe na hindi na ikarga sa eroplano.
Pero hindi matukoy sa video kung sino ang nagsimula ng gulo. Hindi malinaw kung ang nangyari bago at matapos ang pag-rolyo ng video. Nakatuto si Ope Carampel.
Kumakalat ang video na ito sa internet. Kuha sa NAIA Terminal 3 kahapon nang magkasakita ng grupo ng mag-asawang Raymond Santiago at Claudine Barreto at ang kolumnistang Simon Tulfo. Video sa YouTube at sa pagkakapasa-pasa sa iba't ibang social media sites, hindi malinaw kung sino ang nagsimula ng kaguluhan at kung anong punto na ang tagpong ito ng buong pangyayari nang magsimulang rumolyo ang video. Sa naturang video, unang-unang makikita ang pagsugod ng lalaking naka-pink na t-shirt. Kaibigan daw ito ni Raymond. Naka-gray na t-shirt naman ang aktor. Sa video, makikita rin ang paglapit ni Claudine ang babaeng naka-pink. At kalaunan, nakuna ng mga gwardyang kumagitna, tila nagtangkang umawat sa kaguluhan. Pero hindi ito naging madali. Nagigil lang ang sakita ng magawang mapaglayo ang mga sangkot sa away. Dito makikita ang pagtayo ng napaupong si Tulfo. Nagsimula raw lahat ng ireklamo ni Raymond at Claudine ang bagahe na na-offload sa sinakyang eroplano mula Boracay.
Dapat pinaalam pa lang mula Katiklan na hindi maisasama yung bagahe namin. Para pagdating namin, hindi kami nag-antay ng matagal doon just to find out na wala pala yung luggage namin.
Ayon kay Tulfo, nakisimpatsa siya noong una sa sentimiento ni Raymond at Claudine. Pero hindi na raw niya kinaya ang umano'y pagsigaw ni Claudine sa isang staff ng airline.
Kung sobra na yung pag-aalipusta doon sa babae, sobra na yung panduduro niya sa babae, at pagmumura niya sa babae, na napapaiyak, nakataranta. Sabi ko, bakit kaya kasi naman ganon? Kaya kinuha ko yung cellphone ko at kumuha ko ng mga litrato.
Doon na raw siya nilapitan ni Raymond. Pero nagtuturoan ang dalawang kampo kung sino ang unang nanakit.
Papakilala pa sana ako nung gusto niyang hablutin. Doon nag-umpisa ang away. Doon nag-umpisa yung gulo. At pinagtulungan na nila ako.
May nakita ko, sabi ko, sir, ano po yung ginagawa niyo? Bigla na lang ako pinito. Tapos sinipa ako.
Ayon kay Raymart, hindi napunan sa videong kumakalat ngayon sa internet kung paano nagsimula ang gulo.
Dulo na po yun eh.
Tulo na.
Yung lumalabas po dyan, kasi after nun, parang lang tunnel eh.
Dagdag ni Raymart, mga tagpo na ito matapos saktan umano ni Tulfo si Claudine.
Sabi ko, ano bang problema mo? Sabi ko, bakit ka nanununtok? Ganyan. Humarap siya sa akin, dun sa counter ng Cebu Pacific, tinadyakan ako ng 2 beses, sabay tinulak ako sa counter ng sobrang lakas. Tapos dito sa likod ko, meron akong red mark sa likod ko. Tapos ito, ayan, namamaga pa.
Tinadyakan ko, yan natadyak ko siya.
Bakit po?
Napag sinutok ako eh.
Sinita niya si Claudine, ay doon naman po ako nagilit na ng ulo. Dahil asawa ko na yung sinaktan niya.
Ang masakit doon kasi kasama namin yung mga anak namin. Andun yung mga anak namin eh. So, syempre nakita ng mga anak namin yung pangyayari. So,
Sana naisip niya may mga bata.
Nang maawa, dinala ang mga sangkot sa Airport Police Headquarters. Pero hindi sila doon nagkaayos. Pobre ka lang kaya nakatuto, 24.
This is a good almost 5-minute report. On eternity, if we're talking the prime time news broadcast of a TV station, they devoted a good 5 minutes for it. It's an end-to-end report. Hindi ko na lang alam kung ang natitirang question na lang after this report is sino yung nauna, sino yung na-provoke, because they gave everything already. Diba? Compared to this earlier video, yung raw na nakita natin kanina, yung raw nakita lang natin yung isang piraso, a snapshot of what may have happened, of what happened. Ito yung nag-circulate, ito yung kumalat, ito yung pinagpalit-palitan, ito yung pinagpasapasahan sa social media. Citizens will always take what they can. I think I was observing you guys kanina, and I saw almost everyone with a camera. If not, how do you call it? DSLR? DSLR, is that right? If not a DSLR, then those flat things, yung magagandang camera na maliliit. Or if not, maybe your reliable iPhone or the Android phones with cameras. So citizens will take what they could, and of course, because they're citizens, it wouldn't contain all the details na mapapanood mo na sa mga show, sa mga programa na gaya ng 24 oras. Ang trabaho ng journalist to make the background, to make the research, to verify everything, and then give it back to the citizens. Pero hindi naman lahat iskandalo. Meron ding sobrang nakakasakit na nare-receive kami sa social media mula sa mga citizens journalists. I remember this from the Maguindanao Massacre of November 23, 2009, where 57 people were killed, including 30 journalists. It was the worst election-related violence, the single worst election-related violence in history. The first time I heard about it, it was not from TV. It was from a citizen who wrote this email at 3:47 p.m. This was his email. He said, Maguindanao gubernatorial aspirant Toto Mangudadatos' wife was kidnapped together with 2 sisters of Mangudadato and media men, as well as legal counsels en route to Sharif Aguac to file certificate of candidacy for gubernatorial position in behalf of Toto Mangudadato. The PNP arm were immobile because they were under the command control of the incumbent. The 6th Infantry Division Army, 6 IB, have played dumb and blind despite heightened reports that there is a plot against Toto Mangudadato. 3:57 p.m. he sends another letter. We plead that this incident be given attention and that in-depth investigation be given, as well as impartial report. The atrocities of Ampatuan family in Maguindanao is a secret public knowledge. All are immobile because for their fear of life, these people are playing gags here. I wasn't able to get this message until about 10 p.m. When I got it, I started verifying, I started combing through my sources in Mindanao, calling everyone that I called. Because the last email that he sent was this one. And the timestamp in his email was 8:48 p.m. I got it around 1 a.m., 1:30 to 2 a.m. because of the clog in the emails. Kasi marunong nang magbigay ng mga reports, ng mga pictures yung Boto Patrollers, kaya send na sila ng email sa e-report@abs-cbn.com. So marami na masyadong emails may cloud. And then I got this. I had to validate, I had to determine if this is an actual picture from that Maguindanao massacre site, because at that time, there was no footage yet. No reporter has been able to go in. Wala pang nakakapuntang kahit na sinong media man doon sa lugar. Wala pang lumalabas na footage, wala pang lumalabas na litrato. Itong kaisa-isang litrato na to galing sa isang citizen. And the world would hail this photograph as the first ever photograph to have emerged from the Maguindanao massacre site. And it came not from a journalist, it came not from a reporter, it came from a citizen. He was there and he took the risk. Of course, until now, nobody knows the identity of this person. I do, but kahit siguro sunugin niyo, kaya hindi ko sasabihin. I've just shown you some examples that to me shook my world as a social media spectator, and I'm hoping that they shook you as well too. Well, I'm showing you these hashtags. I remember writing something on January 16, 5:02 p.m. Just this January 16. I sent out an email to colleagues at ABS-CBN. I said, "Thank you to everyone who tweeted using the hashtag CJ on trial. We were second only to hashtag Golden Globe. We ruled. Tomorrow, we should do it again. Promote all our programs and coverages using the hashtag CJ on trial." Smiley. I then cited some portions of the story that we came out with about the CJ on trial. Of course, we know that CJ on trial is the hashtag for the impeachment of the then Chief Justice Renato Corona. Netizens were not able to stop themselves from discussing the impeachment proceedings. Landing among the local trending topics of the microblogging site Twitter, the hashtag CJ on trial stayed in the second spot for several hours. Netizens shared their views and opinions about the trial as they follow the blow-by-blow coverage. That ABS hashtag, of course, CJ on trial, come May 22, 2012, when the senator judges were about to hand down the verdict on Corona, it trended #1 worldwide and stayed there for several hours. What is the significance of trending? It signifies that a good portion of citizens online are talking about something. It means that citizens online have taken the time to comment or call attention to something. And for a country like the Philippines, whose majority of people have yet to be online, have yet to be digitally connected, that means those of us who have been lucky enough to participate in something so powerful are calling attention to something. It does not necessarily mean that the digitally connected is right, but it's possible that it means students, teachers, workers, citizens have found something to speak about and are trying to push that topic to the offline space, to the airtime of TV Patrol or of Bandila, for instance, to the Alice in Green Hills or Divisoria. When we do shout-outs in the digital space, it means we are trying to push the conversation to universities like this, to the shopping malls, to the barangay offices, to the halls of Congress, to the meeting rooms of Malacanang, to the negotiating tables where our leaders are hopefully thinking of just and lasting peace. This is the power of social media. When citizens online speak, when the digital space shouts out collectively about something, people listen, government listens, stakeholders listen, or at least they are forced to. The challenge of the times for the digitally divided nations like the Philippines is for the lucky ones like us to use the power in our hands to speak in behalf of those who did not be able to do so, to lend our voice to those who have been rendered voiceless by poverty and the lack of access and opportunity. If you slice the DNA of social media, and you will find a virus that is so strong, it infects whatever it touches or comes into contact with. This is the virus that is so potent that it could mobilize people, oust leaders, spark revolutions. And I ask you now, when will this virus infect you? Thank you very much. Magandang hapon po.